Finance Committee meeting to order. In attendance on the committee is myself, Ellen Marino, and Kurt Warner. Scott Beecher should be coming. I'm not sure about Frank Olivieri, if he's coming or not. But we'll begin with the budget overview, and I'll turn it over to Mike.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I have a short presentation. Basically, it's broken into two parts. The first part is to really talk about the process that we go through to build the budget. And the second part is to talk about a high-level view of what the proposed 2026-27 budget looks like at this juncture. Next week, we'll go in depth and we'll go line by line, so you'll have a chance to see what makes up all the numbers. You'll get your budget books at that time. You'll be able to review the budget in depth, and then we'll come back and either clarify any questions people have, or we will talk about setting a vote date. Any questions about the process? Okay.
That's good.
So we'll just talk about those three things as far as what we're doing tonight. I'll also send this brief presentation out afterwards. So how we build our budget. We work off of a zero-based budget. Now, people throw that around quite a bit, zero-based budget. I'm not sure if people really understand what that actually means. I've heard some statements made since I've been here about comments that we carry things over and statements like that. And in a zero-based budget, that's not how it works. So I'm going to kind of go through that just to kind of clarify the process. So when you're setting a budget supports your short and long-term goals. Budget doesn't drive the dollars. Budget drives initiatives, your goals and objectives, what you're trying to accomplish. So that's the first thing you have to identify. Where do you want to be after next year? Like, what are you targeting next year? I'll give you an example. If we are able to go forward with the bus loop and we can start getting through the application process next year, the next budget, in that budget will be money dedicated to support that goal. That's not in this budget because that's not a goal for next year. That's happening in the background, but it's not a goal for next year. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the key to a budget is you establish your goals, and then the dollars support what you're trying to accomplish. So in zero-based, you define what your goals are. So if you look on the right-hand side here, you define what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish. Then you build your budget from the ground up. You start from ground zero, and you start to construct each piece until you get a full budget. Then you talk about justifying why you put in the budget, what you put in there. Then the final step is you prioritize those items. So if we are trying to, our goal is to build a house, okay? We set our objectives of building the house. We talk about, okay, we need a foundation, we need walls, we need windows, we need a roof, we need plumbing. So you go through, you articulate all those pieces to your budget. You justify what's in that budget. The last step is the prioritizing the pieces of the budget. Okay, so now we articulated we wanted to build a house. We identified all the pieces to the house. Now we have to really sharpen the pencil and figure out what can we afford. Now, do we go with the triple pane Anderson windows, or do we have to back that down a little bit? Do we go from a 6,000 square foot house to maybe a 2,500 square foot house? So that's the last piece of it. So the keys The key to zero-based budgeting is, again, you start from zero every year. You don't just take this year's number, I'll use round numbers. Okay, last year was $10 million budget. We're going to slap on 20%, and now next year's budget is 20% higher. That's not zero-based budget. So let's talk about how we do that here in education. So for us, we identify, we let the teachers and department chairs know we are starting to craft our budget for next year. They receive a document that has all our object codes in it. What that means is all the possible line items that they might be able to request. Textbooks, supplies, professional development, all of those things. So the teachers get a blank sheet. Each teacher is required to identify what they need for the courses that they teach. So I teach 5 classes. Say I teach tech ed. I teach 5 classes of woodworking. I know each unit I'm going to do for each class. I know for each unit the materials I'm going to need for that class. I know how many students roughly I'm going to have. So I multiply the students by the supplies that I need. That gives me the number for that class. As a teacher, I would do that for each of my classes. Then the teachers submit that to the department chair. So if I'm a math department chair, I'm going to collect all of the requests from the math teachers, and then I'm going to create a math budget. Now, say I have 5 math teachers, and one of them needs AP textbooks. That's a large item. That might be in there. The department chair is going to talk to the teachers to get justifications on what they're asking for. Because the next step is, now the department chairs have to meet with the principal and the head of school to justify why they're requesting the dollar amount they're requesting for their budget. Math example. If the math budget is high in a sense of it's higher than they normally would request over time, then we ask why. We look specifically line by line. If it comes up to textbooks, then we have a discussion about why do you need the textbooks? Well, they could say, well, AP is changing their curriculum and they're requiring us to change our textbook for next year. So then this is where the pushback comes. So then the principal and then the school will say, okay, is it have to do or they recommend it? So we get clarification on that. Is it you have to have it next year, or is it something in the next 3 years you have to have? So we have that dialogue at that level. Justifications are made and adjustments are made. The next level is the head of school meets with the business manager, and we go over all the non-academic departments, facilities, business office, main office, insurance, all of those categories. And then we talk about, okay, what is it going to cost us for electricity for next year? Well, we'll look back the last 3 years. We've spent around $90,000 a year consistently for 3 years. Okay, that makes sense that we should target $90,000 for the budget for next year. So we go through every line item to justify what we will need for next year. We'll also review the adjustments that we've made in the other departments. The last step is the head of school has to look at holistically the budget to see, okay, what are we requesting? What is nice to have? What is need to have? And then what is appropriate for an appropriate budget to present to the board? Like what can the town afford? So in other words, if the requests come in and they're 50% higher than last year, and everyone can justify why they want 50%, that doesn't mean 50% is going to go through. That's not an appropriate request. It's up to the head of school to be judicious and be fiscally responsible on the budget that they present to the board. That's our process. The last step is to present it to the board. The board can ask questions. Then we make a decision on if that's an appropriate budget to move forward, or if the board feels that there are either questions they need answered, or if they have thoughts or comments related to the budget, and a dialogue occurs. So that's our process. Now, let's move on to the next phase, an overview of what next year looks like. So we've talked already about some of the main drivers. So if we look at the budget from last year to this year and from two lenses. One is the gross numbers. So we say, okay, all in, our budget is $10,471,670. That's our proposed budget, all in gross number. And again, I'll send this out to you. That's an 8.65 comparison to last year. Gross number to gross number. The net budget of $10,174,920 is after we apply our grants, our gate money, any revenue that we have coming in that can reduce the expenses that we have that's in the gross. Now, we have, compared to last year, our net budget is up 10.55%. The reason our net budget is percentage-wise higher than last year is because we are receiving less COVID money and grants that we did last year. So the reduction that we are applying to our gross number this year is less than it was last year. Does that make sense? As we talked about, there's really three main things that impact this. Our overall benefits, and the main one there is health care. Our contractual obligations, and then the loss of the grant funding. So if we're looking at pure numbers, these are the numbers for next year. Again, you see in the red that we're down $137,518 in revenue compared to last year. That being said, our international program is projected to be higher than it is this year. So there's a negative and a positive for us looking at next year. So this is kind of what the picture looks like. So our 25-26 approved budget is the $9.6 million on the left. We're adding almost $600,000 in employee benefits. Most of that, almost the majority of that, is health insurance. On top of that, we have the contractual obligations of salaries. The last big bucket, which is really big, is the $47,000 for property, building, and equipment. The last category are reductions that we've made during that budget process that we talked about, creating a zero-based budget. So things that we don't need next year that we have this year, or things that we've cut from the budget. That's the negative 206, which brings us down to the 10.471 gross budget for next year, proposed budget for next year. So what's in this budget? We have the insurance that we're still investigating other options. We're not getting a lot of positive feedback, to be honest with you. We're still trying. We have more and more meetings set up. We're doing whatever we can, and hopefully we can get that number down. But right now, the number's the number, and we have to go with that. In this budget, we have the insurance, salaries, and then we've reinstated a custodial maintenance position that was in the budget in 24-25. We had somebody leave. They did not fill that position. They tried this year to do without it. Problem is, we budgeted $20,000 for overtime for the year. Last numbers we checked, this was before these snowstorms, we were a little over 25,000 already. So that number is going to be way over at the end of the year, which really speaks to we just don't have enough people to cover all of our events. So we are requesting to put that position back into the budget to hopefully offset the majority of that overreach and the overtime. The only other thing that's in the budget is we've put in 2 instructional aides that will assist with academic support. As we all know, and what has been brought up, is our scores aren't great. I mean, that's the reality of it. Okay, so we have to do something about that. We cannot just ignore it. Now, we're doing things internally right now, which we talked about, which Deb Lewis shared with us as far as what we're doing this year, what we have planned for next year. But it really comes down to support of students. Now, what you didn't hear in the presentation last week, which was new learning for me this year, you will probably recall that we received a school improvement grant. I don't know if you remember me bringing that up earlier in the year, which was great news. It was about $113,000. Is that Diana,
Yeah.
right? 12, 113,000. Which was provided by the state, which at the time I wasn't completely informed of what that really meant. So I probably should have really thought about this a little more. It's a school improvement grant. Part of the process of getting that money, I was required mandatory professional development to go to for the state. And again, I thought this was just, okay, this is how you have to spend the money type of thing. It was a little more than that. What they informed me at this meeting, along with other schools, was that the Gilbert school is identified as a focus school. So what does that mean? Well, a focus school is when a school performs in the bottom 10% performance-wise in the state for 3 consecutive years. We hit that category for the SBAC. The challenge is that if you don't get off that list, you go from a focus school to what's called a turnaround school. Now, anytime you move into a more restrictive position with the state, that's never a good thing. So in this professional development, they were driving home that it's important to get off that list, which is why they gave you the money and they offer support. So in a one-on-one conversation with the state, I learned that we are in year 2 of being a focus school. Apparently, we were a focus school last year. We just, I guess, weren't aware of that. So, I believe we have 3 years to get off of being a focus school. This is year 1.5. So, we are doing everything and anything we can to focus on supporting our students. Again, Deb gave you the laundry list of what we're doing currently. Next year, we are going so extreme that we are changing the schedule, providing more supports. The grant that we have this year is providing support after school. We're doing targeted supports. We're working with experts in the math area to provide targeted interventions. So a lot is happening. But in the background, you need to know that this is the landscape, and we need to take action to get off this list, which is why we have the 2 instructional aides in the budget. So that's an overview of our process for how we develop our budget, and then the 10,000-foot level of the proposed budget that will be presented next week. Questions?
I have a question. Is that focus group kind of like an alliance district? Similar?
We are already an alliance school.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I thought, okay, that's where we get this money from, or why we're getting the money. I was surprised when the state sat me down and said, no, we are giving this money because you're a focus group. And that is, to be crystal clear, the focus is because we have a targeted group that fell into that 10%, bottom 10%. It's not the whole school. So, which is a good thing for us, because we can really narrow our attention.
Is it primarily math? Or is it?
It's math, and it's our high needs population.
Okay.
And our high needs population is broken up into 3 components. It's free and reduced, ELL, and special education. So those 3 categories create the high needs grouping. And in that grouping, math is the area that we are in the bottom 10%. So the professional development, or the meeting, mentor meeting, was insightful, because it really showed exactly where we need to focus our attention, which we are doing just that.
Do they follow up on it? Like, do you have to go back to another meeting, or do they monitor this, or?
Yes, they give us over 100 grand, they monitor it.
Yeah.
So they actually awarded it to us in September. However, because it's a federal grant that's passed with the state, they are sticklers as far as having the paperwork exactly right. So we've gone back and forth with the state up until last week. Now, was it last week?
A couple of weeks, yeah.
2 weeks ago? That they finally gave us the approval and released the money to us. So we've gone half a year without access to that money until we finally got the paperwork just the way they wanted it.
And that's 1 year.
So this is the first, they gave us 112, 113 for this year. Now, since we were going back and forth with the state, they're going to let us carry over some of that money, but they said 20%? 20% is all we can carry over, unless there's extenuating circumstances. And don't you know, I'll be working as much as I can, because we've missed already half a year. So that's where we're at with the state right now.
Yeah, well, I'm just open with anybody, yeah. I know it's committee, but I'm fine
Yeah.
with it, yeah.
You said that the high needs population that focuses us is threefold: special ed, ELL, and free and reduced lunch. percentage of our total population is considered high needs? It doesn't have to be an exact number, but.
Great question. How do I explain this?
I mean,
So the challenging part is the free and reduced part, because we offer breakfast and lunch for our entire population, because they fall under the free reduced lunch umbrella. However, 100% of our student population is not free and reduced, which was, I was surprised that I didn't know how that happened. But there is a mechanism that is in place that articulates that. I think the number is around 65%.
So you said it's not the whole school that's target, it is more than half the school that falls into one of those pockets, right? Free and reduced, ELL, or special ed.
But this is SBAC, so it's 7th and 8th grade. So it's 7th and 8th grade, one of those three categories.
Gotcha.
And we were able to pull a list of that, of who qualifies or who falls in that category. And within that list, we were able to look at scores for each student and then cull out the ones that are struggling, so that we can target just that population. So the information was very valuable. We met with the math department chair, the principal, director of guidance, special ed director for middle high school. I feel like there's one other person in the room. And we actually looked at every child that fell within that category and looked at every score, and then started pulling them out and providing support for them currently now. The list wasn't as large as I thought it would be because of the free and reduced part. It was a lot smaller than I thought.
When they pull out the free, and this is like getting in the weeds and it's not necessarily for the purpose of this conversation, when you pull out the free and reduced 7th and 8th graders, you can only pull them out, I assume, based on people who submitted forms, but because the school has a blanket free policy, it was probably a little bit more challenging to extrapolate.
So there's a mechanism in place that through data through the state helps articulate who falls within that category. So we didn't establish that.
They use their, I gotcha.
So there's a method that through data collection articulated that.
Understood.
And then, again, looking at that list of pages of students we're talking about, free and reduced was not the subcategory that was really driving all of this. The bottom line is, we were really able to drill down and focus on exactly what we need, who we need to support, and now we're trying to figure out how and what's the best way to do that. So, for example, we have after-school support. Some of those students are in that program. Like, you are, Shane, you are in that program.
Again.
Some will reach out to the families and talk to the parents and say, hey, this is a program we have.
Sure.
Shane's been struggling lately. And then the parents will say, yes, Shane really needs to stay after. He can stay after every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And Tuesday, Thursday, because he's doing music. So those are some of the steps we're doing.
And so, I'm so sorry. In order to exit that focus school designation, you just have to get out of the bottom 10%. Do you have to wait for the next round of SBAC?
That's the metric that they use, yes. And the interesting part is, you could score better next year,
It's-
but still be in the bottom 10%.
Right.
And conversely, you could score worse and get out of the top 10%, depending on what the state does.
Okay.
So, can't really rely on,
We're shooting for better.
we're shooting for better. This is all about growth.
Yeah.
This isn't just about, and this isn't just about one test that we're focused on. This is about, okay, how do we support our students that are struggling? How do we create an environment that better supports all of our students? That's really, that's the direction, short-term and long-term goals.
And I'm just thinking more like long-term, sorry, like, so you sort of break the spell, right? Because if you get out for even a year, and so say things
Yes.
shift, I'm just trying to think like,
Resets the clock
okay,
for 3 years.
so it has to be, okay, 3 consecutive, okay, thank you.
Is there any correlation between SBAC performance and overall student performance? Like, as they get into high school, like the kids who struggle on the SBAC, and how do they do on the PSATs and SATs? Is there any correlation between any of that, or not really?
I'm sure there is. If a student struggles with standardized tests,
Yeah.
there is a group that will always struggle with standardized tests. There are others that,
That was me.
Look,
Anyway.
let's be honest, middle school is a rough time for students as they are developing, and the social emotional components. Sometimes they struggle in middle school, and then they get to high school and they take off. There's a lot of factors that go into it. The factors that we can control, like Patrick talked about last week, we want to support the students socially and emotionally, provide opportunities for them and support. We also want to make sure that we are providing the best academic program possible. So one of the reasons why we're switching the schedule next year, which Deb was articulating well, we want kids or students to have the content every day. So right now, for math, it's every other day. And you throw in a snow day or a delayed opening or what have you, that really disrupts the consistency of learning. By going to a straight 8-period day next year, you have math every day. Regardless, you have math every day. So that should pay dividends for us alone. So there are factors that, there are systems we're trying to put in place to improve our delivery of instruction, along with the targeted approach for individual students.
I'll say this, one, my son's not happy about going to class every day next year, but that's his
okay, he's in
problem.
middle school.
That's his problem. But we talked about it today, we're talking about the possibility of test fatigue. 8th grade has PSATs, I believe that's when PSATs first introduced them. So by the time they get to SBAC is the last assessment test they get of the year. You have 3rd to 6th graders that take that assessment at the end of the year and they don't want to take it. You have 8th graders who are going through their 3rd assessment at that point. I think having test fatigue has something to do with this. Like, I'm just going to click through and get this over with.
And that's valid. I mean, what does that test mean to them?
There's
Zero.
there's nothing.
They don't get a grade, they don't get, really, they don't even get their results till later. I don't think the results really mean
I think
whole
that's
lot
part
to
of
me.
it. I think that, but that's every school. That's every. I'm not just saying it's.
There is.
It's,
But we started to focus this year on trying to, again, our 3 goals this year. So we go back to the budget. The budget supports your goals. Our goals this year were to improve our math scores, improve our English scores, and increase engagement. Engagement is a big topic. That means athletics, clubs, academics. So when students are taking these assessments, it's our job to try and engage them in this process to get them to take it more seriously than just to go through and C, and I'm done. So that's on us to try and engage them. Middle school is a little more challenging than high school, yes. But we're aware of it, we are actively attacking that. And we'll see how it goes. So, as I shared, the budget's pretty streamlined, there's not a lot of bells and whistles, there's not a lot of complexity to it. There's a few drivers. Unfortunately, a couple of those drivers are large numbers, insurance being the main one. But that's not a Gilbert issue, that's a nationwide issue. Everyone is experiencing that. We're working very closely with the Winchester Board of Ed, superintendent, the town, to try and either collectively or independently get better numbers. Whatever works best for all of us. Scott?
How much of the total increase, percentage-wise, is health insurance and salaries?
So 72% is just the benefits.
Of the increase.
Doesn't include salaries. So if you look, about 600,000 is,
Gotcha.
so the total is 833. You're looking at almost $1 million between benefits and salaries. Had it not been for the things that we reduced and the other savings, that number would be much higher.
Much higher. In the position, the custodial position, is that going to be a full-time or part-time?
That's going to be a full-time,
With benefits?
with benefits. And that's about 22 and change an hour, I think.
So it's sizable, 50,000 plus
46.
plus benefits.
46, yeah.
So that was built into last year's budget, right, so that's why
No.
it's not showing up,
No, so
I think it just
It was
wasn't
removed.
filled. Oh, I
So
thought
the-
it just wasn't filled this year.
the year before, 24, 25, when they were building
Mhm.
this year's budget, somebody left.
Right,
They didn't fill that, and they, while they were building that budget, they thought, okay, well, let's see if we can do without it.
I think
Next
it was
year.
on the cutting room floor, you know how Greg would do
Yep.
that slide, the cutting room floor, I think that's,
And that's this year, currently, while we're sitting
Maybe
here,
more, I remember that.
that position's not in the budget.
oh, I'm getting my years confused,
Yeah.
right, okay, yeah.
So as we sit here today, we are short a person
Yep.
compared to last year.
By the same token, now, and I agree with the overtime's more, but
Made sense to me.
we're trying to get more inclusive, we get more people, so we're having more events. Right, we're bringing more people to the school, so it's kind of,
well,
Well,
it
just
was
things
done
like-
I was just kidding,
upgrades, so we
you
wanted
gotta
to
get people that can work
facilities up.
Just things like weekend activities. So Park and Rec uses our building for basketball. We have a custodian come in. We don't charge the town for that. One of our people cover that. And not that we want to charge the town, because the town is gracious enough to let us use their fields. So it's a give and take, but we still need people to cover those things.
So when you go to that slide, where was it built into the,
Salaries.
oh, it was, okay. Which seems like a dumb question, I just assumed that all the salaries were increases,
They are. So in the salaries
the 393.
is the
393,
393, yeah. So that's teachers, administrators, staff members,
and one
admin
maintenance
assistants. And then those three positions are in that 393.
person. Okay, then that makes sense. Okay, thank you,
So,
I understood.
not that we wanna go here, but what happens if you don't get out of the focus school in the 3-year
I
timeline?
know.
So then we
Does the
move
state come in and like,
over to what's called a turnaround school.
yeah, what does that mean?
It's
Nothing
not
good.
receivership.
It's not receivership,
Okay,
But,
sounds like it could be.
but they take a significant interest in you. And
This is SDE,
yes,
yeah.
yes. I've never been in that position,
Yeah,
nor do I ever want to be in that position. I can tell you, years ago, when Mr. Sanford and I worked in a different district, we came in when the state was applying support similar to this, but it was on a, it wasn't academics, it was discipline-wise. And there was a significant amount of pressure put on the school and time. There was requirements that the administrators had to go to trainings. Even though we weren't there when this happened, it was 2 years before us, we still had to go to, I want to say, 5 days of training. Chris, is that something like that?
You told me not to speak at this meeting.
Sure.
That's typical bureaucracy.
And then,
Somebody screws up here, they're gone, and then these people have to pay the price.
focused monitoring, I mean, it just, we just don't want to go there. And it's not good for kids, so we really want to do what's right and improve our program.
Did they ever designate, so the focus is based on 3 years of the SBAC scores, which is 7th and 8th graders. Is there, do they ever look at the high school and say, oh, you need to focus or you need to turn around?
So SBAC is evaluated on growth for that year. SAT is a mark that you have to hit. And that's a different animal to try and assess.
Right, my ultimate question
But
is.
SBAC goes
did they-
up to what grade?
8.
It
Is
stopped
there,
at 8.
I have to assume that there's focus or turnaround districts, schools that have. So is SDE never gonna look at high school data and say, based on your high school data, we're gonna designate you as focus, turnaround, improvement, alliance?
To be honest with you, I don't know. What I can say is, for the high school, they use the SAT test for all 4 grades.
Right.
It's one shot for 4 grades. That's a harder thing to evaluate and grade and hold the school accountable for. SBAC is year to year to year. Elementary and middle schools are much easier to identify the bottom 10%
Yeah.
accurately. So, as I'm thinking back to that session with the state, to be honest with you, once I heard we were a focus school, I was locked into, what does that mean for us, and how do we get off this thing?
You gotta focus.
I wasn't really focusing on,
Focus on the focus.
The
The SATs
driver
and
of
the-
my question is, it's one thing to be removed from a focus school if we improve SBAC, but if there's another metric that we could end up back in that situation based on high school data, it would be good to know if such a metric exists.
I don't think, again, trying to think back to that session, that didn't seem like a concern. I feel like everything was focused on SBAC during that time. And again, because I think it's one test out of 4 years,
Right, it's harder
and
to,
and there's so many variables that go into that. The SBAC is growth for that year, so it's easier to measure. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Good question, I'll look into it, but right now I have something that's immediate concern. We need to get off the focus list.
There's a focus school fact sheet, so.
oh, did you look it up?
So what concerns me, and this, you can't answer this because you aren't here, is the fact that we're a year and a half into this and we're just finding out.
Did the school notify, does
How
the
did
state
that
notify you? Did they notify you?
It's public record, they make a big announcement about which schools every year are focused,
But do they notify the
turnaround.
school?
Yeah.
Like I read
Notify the schools?
about it online months ago.
But I can tell you, even I wasn't sure about that until I got confirmation from the state when I went to that mandatory meeting.
Right,
So-
so I'm saying, yeah, you can't answer this question,
No, but even, like, we started the year off as a focus school.
and you didn't know it.
No,
Right.
I knew that the state had money for us, which is great.
But there must have been notification when you were designated,
I
is what you
mean,
mean.
not
Yes.
necessarily.
At some,
There had to be.
I think
There
there
had
had to have been,
There
but
had to.
do you think we
That's
remember?
what
data
concerns
every
me,
year.
is
Yeah.
like,
So
We didn't get a
remember
letter
where we
with
were
that.
last year,
Not you,
of
yeah.
different admin coming in and out throughout the whole year, and I'm not
I
making
don't-
excuses, I'm just saying.
disagree.
It
I
doesn't,
think
there's nothing to do about it.
no
You just
one
have to move
notified
forward.
me,
I mean, I
and-
get that, but it's.
I don't wanna focus on the past, but
It's a fair question.
it's concerning.
So what test do they take like in sixth grade? So I gotta do
That's
kids
back.
That's
So they're-
third,
So these kids are,
Third through.
Third
is
through
it the
eighth.
same percentage that's probably performing not so well in the elementary level as well they
We
come up? Is this?
touched on it, the other night, is the aspect as you, because we follow our cohorts of students throughout, and from 6 to 7, and 7 to 8, the scores drop.
Can I ask a quick question? I know we're talking
What's
about
the
like
math?
shifting
Oh.
the designation
Yeah.
of the school. Does that
No.
release you from
They did.
being on the radar for that kind of, I'm just curious.
shifting the designation of the school, meaning
From, to like independent or?
as a town academy?
Yeah.
Good question. No, we accepted the $112,000, so we're
We took-
kind
we
of on the
took
hook there. And
You know
look,
what I mean,
Well,
in
yeah,
terms of
yeah.
the focus
You
school,
gotta
is
get
that
out of
like,
no, we're,
you're under the same conditions with the
Yeah.
with SDE? Okay.
yeah, we wear both hats. We wear public
Right.
and private. And sometimes we can choose which hat we
You
want,
see what I'm asking, why I'm
Yeah,
asking, okay.
depending on the situation.
Right.
This is one of those situations we don't really have a choice. but,
Gotcha, yep.
And to be frank, we should be doing something.
Not to avoid, right,
Yeah, we-
but,
We
yeah,
can talk about numbers, we can talk about,
but just to create breathing room.
yeah, I'm with you. I definitely want off this list. But the bottom line is we want to do what's best for our students. We want to present a better
Right.
program and a better product. And this really kind of creates the urgency that we need to do that. Which is why we put the 2 aides in there, which is why we're changing the schedule, which is why we're taking all these steps now and next year.
Was there any software updates or anything like that, or like curriculum changes?
Yeah, so one of the things that, part of that school improvement grant is really going towards extending our math curriculum from 7th and 8th grade to 9th and 10th grade. So there's more continuity, getting more resources, more textbooks, more math licenses, the after-school support. We're
Did
trying
Deb
to
say
get
go
math.
back to Khan Academy?
Khan Academy is something that we're doing as well. Math interventionist, that's in that grant. Yeah, so,
That's something you really wanted to do, okay? Is math interventions.
yeah. So, again, Deb spoke about that last week, about all that. There was a lot to her presentation. Really the key points, the takeaways from her presentation really should be the things that we're doing this year, right now, to address this, which there are a lot, and the fact that we have a game plan for next year.
Yeah, I think to Kurt's point, he's saying scores, you check cohorts of kids. You guys have interventionists and supports, so it'd be interesting to see if it's the higher needs that are probably getting supports through 6th grade, and then those supports are dropped off when they come here because we don't have that staff. So, I mean, you keep bringing up that our test scores drop off, but clearly the students have been identified, so it'd be interesting to look at what supports those kids had in place. Because if it was successful there,
Well,
then
should
that might
have-
be something.
That data should already be here.
Well, there
Yeah,
was
like
a-
regular ed
Yeah.
supports would be the thing that the
There
gap,
is-
because
there is-
ELL and special ed
Because
supports
kids
are still
don't want
in
suddenly-
place.
There's a lot more
Drop.
supports in the elementary level,
Yeah.
there's a lot more.
Well, yeah,
interventions,
like,
there's a lot
no,
more
I-
professionals, and we don't have that.
I think everybody's making ultimately the same point, like special ed students, their supports continue.
This is not new special ed though, this is just.
Yes,
It-
special
it
ed
does.
and
It
ELL are
does.
in that
It
high
does.
needs
Yeah.
thing. So it'd be interesting to extrapolate regular ed, non-ELL, because that's really where you could start to think about the intervention would be the gap, because the ELL supports stay, the special ed supports stay, but that would be interesting to see the difference in that.
So we
If
have,
you
we
lose
have that
those kids,
information.
yeah.
We have that information as far as students for the SBAC who don't fall in the high needs category, but struggle on the assessment. So,
I think we should work with Winchester to find out what supports they have.
yeah, well, we're working with the state SBAC math guru. We're working with the math guru at Advance. And we're also working with Agile Math, a math curriculum. We shared our data with them. Between their program and our data, they are doing a deep dive to figure out what's the best way to attack our scores, individual scores. So between the three different professionals that are supporting us, we're doing that currently right now to try and have an impact on our program.
And everybody takes the same test.
Yeah.
So your ELL, you struggle, you don't have a solid grasp of the language, and you're tested on content in your non-native language.
I will share
It's
that.
very challenging to,
Something that we just did, that Deb and Maura and Donnie worked with the 7th and 8th grade teachers, had them take the SBAC test to get a sense of, okay, what are we preparing kids for? Like, what does that look like? And it was definitely eye-opening for people. Now they know what they're trying to prepare students for, as opposed to the example that Maura and I were talking today. She said, not knowing the test, it's like trying to teach them how to drive by just giving them a manual. You need to put them in the driver's seat and learn what the pedals are and the shifter is, and understand what that process is, so you can help them be successful in that. So that just happened with the 7th grade. I think the 8th grade is happening next. But that's going to be a great step that should have.
One more question, and then we have to, unfortunately,
I just want to say something. My cousin retired, but her and her husband taught math at Torrington. She's been tutoring now for basically 30 years. I was talking to her about this whole new math. What she found out was when the students come to her for the new math, she has to start them back. She learned it all now. She taught herself all the new math. But what she found is by bringing the student back to the basic math, what I call the original math, and then bring them to the program, they then catch on to it. They then become a good student. Now, I was an engineer. I found math easy. My godson, just the opposite. If I taught him math, he says, I go and look at it, I just don't see it. It just doesn't click in my mind, the problem.
You say your cousin?
My cousin, yes.
Does she want a job?
What?
Does she want a job?
I don't,
Tell
he's
her to
82 years old.
Tell her to call me.
But that's what she told me a couple months ago, that's how she's figuring out how to get these kids. It's like crossing that line from the old math to the new math.
But it's also giving that child the one-on-one too.
But she
Makes
does
a
it
big
for a number of
difference.
students.
Yeah.
And they're all,
Yeah.
she
Well,
says,
you're getting
what I'm
extra
just
help.
saying is,
That's the whole
when-
point, is you're giving
when
her
they
help.
came to her
Yeah.
10 years ago about the new math, she was lost.
Yeah.
She learned it, but she found the way they can get across that line is go back to the beginning, teach them the old math,
Yeah.
and bring them into the new math. And now they're doing very well because they understand it.
Yeah.
So next week, we have a full budget presentation from Mike, and at the end of the meeting, he's gonna give us our budget books, so we can go home and all study them. And then the following week, we will have a meeting to have questions, and question is, do you guys wanna put a potential vote on the 11th agenda so that we can, if we're ready for it, we can decide if we wanna vote on the 11th or just keep it on the regular meeting on the 18th? If we can, I'd like to give Julie a number sooner rather than later, because she's,
Well, you can put possible.
yeah,
That's what I think
Just
we
put
put
possible
possible
down and then.
on the 11th.
Yeah.
Okay,
it doesn't
We don't have
sound
to.
like there's gonna be
yeah.
a lot of
Let's I think we can give her an extra
insurance,
week.
salaries.
Yeah,
Just as
okay,
long as it might be a
I was
long meeting,
expecting
right?
that.
right,
Question.
yep,
Yeah.
okay, so we will meet next week,
I was expecting that.
week after.
Well,
Surprise me.
Week after that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Alright, you have to
I'll make a motion to adjourn. You want
A
a second?
second.
All right, there's four of us here, Scott
Scott,
Oh,
and Frank.
Frank.
Scott.
All in favor?
I know.
Okay.
Sorry, did I take your
That's
second
it.
away?
That's
I'm sorry.
6:59.
I got it.
I was
Okay,
gonna
late.
really,
I know.
my point I was making is you picked on him, not me, to make an example.
You
You let it off.
I-
You let it off.
Kurt put him on a tee for me.
Yeah,